So let's give a warm welcome to Ali Schwanke. Thank you.
There we go, 10 years ago. I had a friend call me up and she said, hey, I have a friend who wants to do this thing called Ignite Lincoln, and we just need someone to help be on the committee. And at that point I thought, sure, I'll be on the committee. And they said, you seem to like to speak to people, so why don't you speak to people about, you might be connected to Brad Pitt. That was the original title of this talk. And so far, since the last 10 years, the only person I've been connected to is Gerard Butler. And I walked by him at the the Fairmount Banff National Park, and all I could think of was, oh my gosh, Russell Crowe. Yeah, he didn't think that was impressive. So any movie buff worth their salt knows the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game, where you can connect Kevin Bacon to 6 actors in any sort of different movie. And Google actually jumped on board in September of 2012 and said, hey, you know, people are Googling this, why don't we just create an algorithm that shows you Kevin Bacon's number for any specific actor. So I don't know if that's actually accurate, but I typed it in and that's what I got. So what that means for us, though, is that we are 6 degrees of separation from any other person on the planet. So right now, I don't know what the latest numbers of how many people are on the planet is, but it's lots. And it means that you're connected to basically anybody in 6 degrees of separation or less. So when I first did this talk, I actually did it as Facebook was gaining traction, and in fact, in the original deck, Friendster was in there. Remember Friendster? Oh, sad. But I think we're half of that by now, and we're going to dig into that a little bit first. So to understand connectivity, let's go back to the 1890s. Anybody want to take a picture like this? I tell you what, you have to sit really still because the camera can't move or you get blurry. So that's why everyone's so mad. They just got to be really serious. You didn't travel more than 200 miles beyond your hometown. So that meant in Lincoln, you didn't go past the arch. You didn't make it all the way past to Buffalo Bill. So no selfies for you. Sorry, Buffalo Bill. After this time, you got past 200 miles, you got trains, you have telephones, you have cars, you have the internet, you have computers. And what that does is that connects us to people worldwide. So if you didn't like your friends in 200 miles in 1890, by the year 2018, you can have friends throughout the world, which is great because if you hate your neighbors, you can find neighbors across the world, right? So that brings us back to the 6 degrees of separation. And so how far apart are we actually today? What do you think? Are we 5? Are we 4? Are we 2? If I were to ask anybody here, who knows how far apart we are, who would you ask? Of course, Mark Zuckerberg, right? Anybody who doesn't know the answer to something should ask Mark Zuckerberg because he probably knows or he sold the data to someone who knows, right? So he discovered that in 2016, there was 1.8 billion users on their platform, and they were 4.57 people away from each other. Twitter found that you're on average, half of Twitter users are 4 people away from another Twitter user. So 6 is now 4.57, and it's now 4. So given all of this, what are the implications of all of this? Anytime I need to figure out what's going on in life, I get a meme of Will Ferrell and I throw it on there and go, what should I do, Anchorman? We got to figure out what to do with all this data. So what does this make possible? Well, first of all, it makes possible for us to connect with other people when we're looking for things like jobs. So how many people log onto the internet and say, I'm looking for a job? Well, they probably don't do that anymore. What happens now is, Allie, I'm looking for a job. Who do you know? Who do you know? Or as an employer, PS hiring content manager if you're interested, but they ask me, who do you know that you know that you know? Do you know this person? Even if it says their strengths are strategic and maximizer and achiever, I want to know, do you know this person? Is this true? It changes how we ask for recommendations. So if you ask, where should I go in Italy? There's a chance that if you didn't go to Italy, you know someone who knew someone who went to Italy. It changes how we find love, how we find people, how we find services. There's a good chance that if you're trying to find somebody, think about the last person that you became friends with on the internet. Can you track down how that happened? If you can, good luck. So now that we're all connected to each other, what does this mean for us? It means that, think about this. If you have a fridge with Wi-Fi, is your stuff going to be connected to other people's stuff and then your fridge is talking to their fridge? Hey baby, it's cold in here. I don't know. So there's no excuses anymore, right? So connectedness means that I can't say I don't know the answer to a question, because there's a good chance that you probably know the answer to a question, or your friend does. So we're now connected to tons of other people who have been there, who have done what you want to do, who have gone where you want to go, and will connect you to something. So now that the 6 degrees of separation are 6 to 4.57 to 4, and that data that I shared with you was 2 years old. it might actually be now 3.5. So my question for you tonight is, what are you going to do to explore your network, because what things are out there? And to cycle back 10 years ago, you might be connected to Brad Pitt. If you are, find me after work, because there's a score I need to settle, and getting connected with him. Thank you.